Welcome to my show, audience, and Josh Ellithorpe. I said that right?
You did.
All right.
That was perfect.
Ellithorpe. Got it. All right. So, how you doing today? Where are you at? It's nice and sunny over there. It's nice and dark over here.
So I am on a remote island, and I have relocated off of, out of the U.S. mainland, and enjoying my tropical paradise. And it's early here, so we have a huge time difference between us.
Oh, snap. Undisclosed location.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to keep it discreet, enjoy my privacy.
Is it your own private island, or you're close?
I wish. I didn't get into crypto that early, So
maybe Bitcoin Cash hits 200,000 or something. You might be on your own.
Yeah, but remote work is a good thing, It gives us a lot of flexibility on where we can go.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll start at the beginning. I always like to start at the beginning. By the way, we are in space. I think I just saw the Blockstream satellite go by. Because we're in space. So we'll start at the beginning. Josh did request some house music, so there's house music in the back. So, guest choice. So start at the beginning. How did you get into Bitcoin?
So I got into Bitcoin actually really, really early, and then got out of it and then came back. So I remember when Satoshi released kind of the white paper, and I read about it. And I played around with some of the very early builds of Bitcoin D just to see what the hell it was. That was like within a year of it coming out. And but then I was like, okay, there's not a lot of economy here yet. This is kind of cool, but I didn't really, it didn't click yet for me. So then fast forward a number of years, and then it did click. And then I would notice that I was spending, a majority of my time tracking kind of the scaling debate and whether or not Bitcoin would continue to be useful for a long time. And I became a lot more of an advocate for cryptocurrencies. And at that time, it was just Bitcoin. And so definitely a huge Bitcoin advocate. And I thought for sure that, the world would want it to get as much adoption as possible because of just the way money works and the importance of timing when it comes to social endeavors like Bitcoin. And then that didn't happen. And I thought that needed to happen kind of in the 2015 timeframe, that we were kind of losing a giant opportunity there. And so I started being a little bit more active when Bitcoin Cash came about. And that's around, I started at Coinbase about, 4 months before Bitcoin Cash actually made it onto the scene. And I just wanted a Bitcoin that actually had low fees and worked not just for Westerners and people that had money already, but for everybody. So I saw it as this global trading tool that anybody could use and really open up trade and an economy between nations that had never been seen before. And that really intrigued me, this idea that money could be managed by people on a distributed network and not by governments and not by some big company that says, oh, well, you should use our centralized money solution. And I was like, wait a minute, they figured out a way to kind of do this. And it is difficult to shut down. And luckily, this market has kind of grown, but shifted into more of an investment market rather than a currency market. Which is not the direction I wanted it to go. But I'm still trying to push for it as currency, and will continue to try to advocate for it as kind of global currency. So that's kind of just like a summary of how I got into the space.
Sure. So you work at Coinbase, you still work there. So how did you, I don't think you advertise too much. It's not like, hey, I work at Coinbase, come to me for your Coinbase problems, right? And so
absolutely not. It's not my responsibility to take care of end user problems. In fact, I'm not supposed to. I can't show favoritism to anyone that I know. So the only best thing I can do is I'll help you open a support ticket. There's not much I can do for you. Support will help you out. And if it gets escalated by support, then maybe I'll see it a little bit later. But that's not what I focus on. I focus on the actual back-end crypto systems that power Coinbase. So making sure the systems that are powering, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the countless other coins we offer today, that's the stuff that I spend my days making sure is, as reliable as possible.
Gotcha. Cool stuff. So, and they let you work remote now. So
yeah, well,
yeah, they were actually one of the
remote first. company.
Yes, I'm now that I said that, I remember like reading they had the first like press announcement and everything when Corona came around, and was very, lack of a better word, progressive in that area. So
Well, we had to be very careful. There's a lot of private keys and people that have ownership of keys, and you need to make sure your employees are safe. And so Coinbase was really proactive about this whole COVID concern. And they made it so that we could work remote even before they mandated us to work remote. They were very accepting for people that were kind of early on the curve of COVID and following what was happening globally. And now we get the benefits of being able to work remote, and it's a remote first company. So when we look at tooling, when we look at staffing, everything is now this remote first mentality where the focus is on quality engineers, quality process, but making sure our tooling lets us do that anywhere in the world, which is really important for a global company.
Gotcha. And so now you'd like to, like a better word again, advertise you're with the BCHD node, right? And so,
Well, I mean, honestly, Chris Pacia did amazing work on getting BCHD where it is. And then I saw him doing like a lot of heavy lifting by himself. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe I can help here. And so I spend a lot of my side time helping resolve bugs, helping coordinate new features, helping with the website, running public infrastructure, and doing all the pieces that I can to assist and make sure that there are enough maintainers on that CHD team to make it viable for people to be running for their businesses.
gotcha. So we have to high five real quick. So I know it's a little
This way? Yeah. Okay. I had to guess. I had to high five the opposite direction.
pretty good. All right, we got to get a little more solid one. Your hand was off screen. A little more solid. Too far.
Oh.
All right,
There we go.
is it? Nice one.
Okay, there we go.
All right. Anyway, so BCHD. So I was talking to somebody. I had lunch today with Mike Tidwell. He's a Lightning developer. Shoot me, right? So he's a very smart guy, and he was saying how he brought up Bitcoin D, and he says a lot of Lightning people run Bitcoin D as their node. And so my question is, since BCHD is the fork of Bitcoin D, is that so you can put Lightning on Bitcoin Cash?
So Bitcoin D and BTCD are different. So BTCD is the full node written kind of and maintained by a lot of the Lightning developers.
Okay.
And mainly in order to improve SPV security for Lightning wallets through the Neutrino protocol, which was literally developed to be a better SPV specifically for the Lightning use cases, which is why they're maintaining BTCD.
Gotcha.
Now, that being said, there aren't that many neutrino-based implementations just of any chain out today. There is the BCH wallet and BTC wallet for BTCD that do support neutrino. And then we have the Neutrino Android wallet, which is BCH based. And we actually made a few minor changes to the spec after investigating it. There's some issues that we found in the integration. But to be honest, there's a lot of people that are anti-layer 2. I'm not. I believe that a free market is exactly that. It's a free market, and people can build whatever they want, and layer 2 solutions provide huge value. And my only issue is forcing people onto solutions because other solutions that shouldn't have broke. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, more layer 2, more exchanges if they want to do that. People have choice to do what they want to do. And I think all of that's great as long as the underlying layer 1 network remains permissionless. Mm-hmm. And to me, permissionless also means affordable to people in the third world, because you are effectively adding a permission if there is a cost to entry that is prohibitive for other markets. So that is just a way to secretly censor who can and cannot use the product in a way where they're like, oh yeah, but we don't block anybody. And it's like, yeah, but if your fees are a certain level, that's like a day's wage or a week's wage in some of these countries. Mm-hmm. Effectively, you have censored them. Right. So having a layer 1 that's really operating.
Nope, it's frozen. He's on island internet. Stand by.
Working.
All right, you're back.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yep, you're back. You're good.
All right. So where did I cut off?
Um, about like a week or day salary for.
Yeah. So effectively, if you price someone out of a network, you censored them. And I think that that's really what's happened on some of the more prevalent blockchains when it comes to global adoption rather than just first world adoption.
Are you telling me
And
people in
I'm
Africa?
all for layer two.
Are you telling me people in lower income, like in remote parts of Africa, you're telling me they're not farming sushi?
Oh, absolutely not. They are not farming sushi, and they're not able to afford, $5 Ethereum fees. And if they are, then they are well above their constituents in their location.
Yeah, right. Gotcha. So speaking of that, you help with Eat BCH. Specific, what do you do with them exactly? I know you're in South Sudan. Do you work with the Venezuelan guys as
So
well?
honestly, I help however I can help. So I met Jose early on and actually flew to DC and talked to him at a think tank in DC about charitable giving. And so I've met both Jose and his brother in person, talking about EPCH concerns. I provided him, I believe, his first ledger so that he could have a hardware wallet to store some of the EPCH funds. I try to help with any of the fundraisers and promotional materials. I helped coordinate getting the website done. And I was the one that hosted the Flip Starter for them, the recent one that just got funded. So that's been really positive, and I've really been amazed at the work that both Jose and the Venezuelan team and the people in the South Sudanese team have really stepped up to, help the people around them and also spread the word of the power of crypto when it comes to these types of markets.
Yeah, it's funny. I was back to Mike Tidwell again, but I was listening to his podcast and I learned that South Sudan is the newest country in Africa, the Republic of South
That
Sudan.
is correct.
So,
It's the newest country in the world. It's one of the few world countries in the world that does not currently have a good mobile money solution. M-Pesa is not there. People are constantly dealing with, Ugandan money or other money outside of South Sudan in order to do a lot of the transfers and just support of that country. And so I look at South Sudan as a huge opportunity for crypto because crypto, I think, really could solve a real economic problem for them because they just don't have the other infrastructure and they need this infrastructure.
yeah, definitely. It's somebody that actually needs crypto, and then you have all the more well-off folks just using the crypto market as their own little financial playground. Not in a good way.
Yeah.
Probably detracting from the main use case for sure. And so,
Well, the thing is in free markets, you never know what people are going to make their main use case. And
Yeah.
I'm okay with the market, doing whatever it needs, but I do think we need more focus on it being used as a currency. And it's a shame that the direction that it's kind of taken over the last 5 years, where it's a lot on speculation and pump and dumps and ICOs and what they consider, quick money. When the truth is that I want, a stable, long-term, durable, permanent money, not one that is just gamed and looked at in fiat profit potential terms. I think that's crazy.
yes, for sure. So they're not checking their Blockfolio every day and see if their $10 went to $9 or $12 or
Exactly.
or $3.
And you can just see the change in the market. Previously, when a new merchant accepted crypto, everybody would be really excited online. Be like, oh yeah, this merchant's accepting crypto. The actual usable market for cryptocurrencies as payments is growing. And now people will be very defeatist and be like, oh, it's just one merchant or it's just this. And it seems that there's some people out there that just want to kind of extinguish this hope that crypto can actually be used as money rather than as a commodity. Yeah. And so I'm just going to try to fight that trend.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's what we all have to do is just keep pushing crypto as money. I mean, that's something that will actually help the world rather than just the rich are getting more rich. So, and communist. Anyways, I want to go back to BCHD again. So, BCHD. So there's a lot of nodes in Bitcoin Cash right now. So, like, what specific role does BCHD play in this?
So BCHD is there to provide better APIs for application developers that need a full node. The reality is that while the Bitcoin D-based derivatives, ABC, BCHN, and some of the other nodes out there, even BU forked from Bitcoin D at one point, all of them had some serious limitations when it came to the usefulness of their APIs. There was only a transaction index. So if you had a transaction ID, you could look up information about that transaction. But if you just wanted basic information about an address, you couldn't even ask the node that. So it was like, oh, well, I don't have indexes for a lot of the common data that most developers are going to need. So BCHD is really there to provide cutting edge new APIs for that data. There's an address index. There's an easy way to query the active UTXO state. So you can say, hey, give me all the UTXOs for this address that I could be using. And all of that can be tracked by the BCHD node. And then it also offers neutrino support for better mobile wallets. And it also offers a gRPC interface, which is kind of a next level fully typed API for application developers that we have found a lot of people have enjoy using. So for instance, Cointext uses BCHD's APIs. Read.cash is using BCHD's APIs. Member added full BCHD support to manage its UTXO management. And so what I've seen is a lot of the more widely used applications for Bitcoin Cash adopting BCHD just to simplify their setup and get a robust API that their applications can use. And so that's our primary concern, is like application developers. That being said, we have put in some work to make sure that the mining interfaces are fully functional. I've mined blocks on testnet. The mining code works, get block template works, but we don't really advertise it as a mining node, even though the mining support is working and it could be used as a mining node. But no miners have really taken the plunge and like tried to mine a block on mainnet. And I don't have a bunch of hash power to try it out. So at this point, question mark on mining compatibility, while we believe it should be fully functional.
Gotcha. There's a question in chat. Feel free to keep asking questions in chat. Does BCHD support SLP?
So that's actually in flight. So we have a alpha build of BCHD that has SLP support. There's a pull request up on GitHub, so you guys can track that progress. All of our progress is on GitHub. And there is a PR called SLP Indexer and gRPC server updates from James Kramer of the SLP Foundation. So we actually hired the SLP Foundation to write the SLP integration for BCHD, with me and Chris providing code review and architectural guidance. So we've been working with James Kramer for some time. He's done amazing work. I actually just reviewed that PR this past weekend, and it's looking to be in really good shape. It is working. Unit tests are passing. The results between SLPDB and other SLP integrations and BCHD has been tested where they are completely consistent. So you can trust that, if you're getting an SLP balance, you get the same value out of the other SLP indexers on the market. And it adds, full SLP support to get information about a token. When you go and pull information about a transaction, if it moved SLP tokens, it will let you know what tokens moved. And it also supports all of the minting and burning operations that anybody would need for SLP. So anything you would need for a consumer wallet or consumer application that needed SLP is working in BCHD today and should be available in release form on our next major release before the fork.
Awesome. Yeah, we don't talk about that pork. Don't talk about that pork here. Speaking on more positive, before we get into that, I'm sure we'll have to mention it at some point. But the Bitcoin Cash DevCon that just happened, I think Christian was in chat earlier. Kudos on that. There's a lot of cool things that came out of it. What were your thoughts? What were your favorite projects?
I mean, I love the fact that the Hush team trying to get SLP support and implement new versions of Cash Shuffle and Cash Fusion is very close to my heart. So I'm really glad to see more developers getting involved and building those tools. That's awesome. So that was definitely probably my favorite. out of the projects.
So yeah,
And also, I'm a fan of AnyHedge.
that was Hush Your Money. That was that the Bitcoin.com integration with the Fusion and Shuffle, right? The
So
Bitcoin.com.
that's what they were doing. But he also wrote another client-side wallet that he demoed the shuffling functionality in. So he's already done some integrations with Cash Shuffle, and just getting more developers familiar with Shuffle and Fusion. Fusion's a little harder to do via a mobile wallet. So getting more eyes on that and getting more people testing those types of solutions is going to be really big for BCH. And I'm excited that that work is continuing, even even at the DevCons.
Yeah, Cash Fusion. I mean, like, I plan to do a video about Cash Fusion soon because I did one on Cash Shuffle, and then I'm like trying to translate it into Fusion. I'm just like, this is so there's like next level, right? With Shuffle, you can like kind of track where your UTXOs are going, and Fusion, you just look at it and you're just like, what the absolute hell is going on?
Well, that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
Is with Fusion, you look at it and there's just so many combinations of what could have occurred that it's really difficult to, if not impossible, to follow that with normal analytics tools. And it seems that someone's been really dusting a bunch of the addresses that take part in Fusions,
Really?
which is like really nice of them because they've been paying for all my Fusion fees, which is like, wow, thanks.
Yeah.
So
Trying to track their dust.
yeah, I don't know what exactly they're doing. It's probably some automated tool, and there's some like op return memo that has like memo SV in it. I have no idea what they're trying to do, but they're paying for a lot of the fees on the Fusion network. So
It's
more
probably
power to them.
it's probably one of those guys that complain in SV that complain that Bitcoin Cash is full of anarchists and you can't use anonymized Bitcoin because it's against the law or some shit like that.
Well,
Anyways, that's
anonymized Bitcoin and fungible Bitcoin are the same thing.
yeah, that's true.
So
So good luck, Memo SV guy. Good luck.
yeah, exactly. They're going to have a good time and try to figure out, something maybe.
Right.
I look forward to an awesome research paper about how they tried to track Cash Fusion transactions, because then it allows us to make it even better.
Right. Can find the flaws.
I love it when people dissect the protocols. That'd be great.
Was that the audit that you're talking about?
Well, what I'm just saying is if their
was
purpose to doing the dusting is
Yeah.
to try to track users, I want to know how they did it.
Right.
I'm all for people, like, I don't believe in security through obscurity. So tell us what you find, and we'll build better tools. And it's kind of a little bit of an arms race between those that want to track transactions and those that want to keep it private.
Yeah, for sure. Just try and break it. Try and break it. We dare you.
Yeah, have fun.
All right. Other products from
Code's open source.
Yeah. Other products from DevCon.
So I did the AnyHedge front end that was done, was kind of cool. And then some of the other projects, like there was the car sharing app that was neat, but I think that a lot of those things are difficult because you need reputation systems when you're doing stuff like that. It's not enough to say like, hey, I need a ride at this latitude and longitude, and someone just picks it up off the blockchain and is like, yeah, I'll give that person a ride.
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite that easy. You still want to be able to track whether that person would destroy your car if they got into it, or some other, identification. And so I think people think everything can just be completely decentralized and anonymous, and kind of can, but you need to know that at least the general reputation of the random user is something that is worth your time. If you get there and they aren't there, for instance, because they're spamming the blockchain with bad lat long coordinates, drivers are not going to like that, right? So I thought it was a cool prototype. I love the idea of doing some of these things decentralized, but I think those are kind of like step 1 of 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For sure. And so I know a lot of developers were very excited for Roscoe's project.
Yeah, Roscoe's project is pretty cool. I've really enjoyed all of the stuff he's worked on with regards to Bitcoin script. I think that the main thing holding back a lot of that integration is just the ability to use complex scripts in mobile wallets and the ease of doing contracts inside of a Bitcoin Cash ecosystem. As can be seen by things like awesome tools. I love Flipstarter, but copying and pasting stuff into a desktop wallet is not something most people are going to do. So how do we get it so that common scripted actions can be done from your mobile wallet and that you can get kind of a library of scripts that are available and an easy way to run them. We're kind of far from that at this point, but he keeps making it closer with better tools and linters and analysis tools. And so I wish him the best, because he's doing a lot of that, front running work to get us where we need to be in a few years.
Right. Very cool. I talked about this Lightning developer earlier, Mike Tidwell. He's in the chat now, and he asks, have you guys talked about how BTC has been taken over by small blockers yet? You're a couple years late.
So whether or not it's been taken over by small blockers, honestly, all I care about is a currency that works, man. So people can try to pigeonhole me as, a big blocker, small blocker, whatever the fuck they want, to be perfectly blunt. And I care about a currency that works for the world. Right now, I see that Bitcoin can't service the world. I see that it is too expensive, and I don't think that Lightning is the best possible solution if it's the only solution. And so I'm just keeping my eyes open. I care about getting a currency that the world can use, that's decentralized, that is easy to develop for, and is better than the current financial system. And I don't care what that ticker is. I just know that I'm not really big on a digital gold narrative.
There you go. I did see this one, the SLP cocktails. They were shuffling SLP tokens.
Yes.
That was pretty
so
cool.
Shuffled SLP tokens is awesome. Being able to use these other privacy tools for in a shuffle is a huge step. And SLP support, I've actually been really surprised at how mature it's gotten. When first SLP hit the market, I was like, it's a little hacky. It's an op return. It's not miner verified. And we paid a lot of, a heavy price for a lot of that, and having to write much better fuzzers and linters and indexing tools and all of this stuff. But it actually came to the point where, like, we have shared tests around a lot of this. There are good fuzzers now. We have a good number of mobile apps that are integrating it. And kind of the last major piece I see for SLP, other than, obviously a token that everybody wants and like a use case for that token, is really the Electron Cash SLP edition to merge into the main Electron Cash. That way people don't have to run different desktop wallets for SLP. I think that's a really big blocker right now. And eventually we're going to get there. I think that Collin has that somewhere on his list of to-dos, his long list of to-dos.
Mm-hmm. So me and Mike talked about this earlier today, but I want your quick math in your head. How many people can on-chain only transactions support?
What?
How many people can on-chain only? So how many people can use on-chain transactions?
Well, that would be like
basically
what we have. So that's basically what we have today. And that's not even, so that's today where people are doing maybe one or two transactions tops that are on chain because they're moving into the exchange and then it's off chain, or they're dealing with some layer 2 and it's off chain. But if it was all on chain, it'd be like half of the users or a third of the users that we have today, which is like fractions of 1% of the population. So basically unusable for global currency on most of these chains. And a lot of different trade-offs are being tested right now for a lot of different coins. And I wish them the best of success. That's the whole point of an open free market. I'm a huge fan of a bunch of coins existing and all using open licenses so that we can take the best stuff and eventually get to something that works. And I think there are a lot of trade-offs being made right now. And right now, the only coins that I really can't get behind in any way are the ones that use restrictive licenses. Like, oh, this is my license and no one else can use my stuff. That means they care more about their ego than they care about global peer-to-peer cash for the world, because they don't think it can exist outside of themselves, which I think is, the biggest lie you could tell yourself.
Mm-hmm. So like ways to scale on chain aren't like the best upcoming things. Graphene, isn't that like a broad bandwidth?
So there's a few things that will help a lot with on-chain scaling. One is, Graphene V2 is out, and that is an improvement at larger block sizes, while not an improvement at small block sizes. So the sizes that we have today on Bitcoin Cash, unfortunately, are pretty small, and Graphene actually has higher overhead than the existing solutions for the sizes we're seeing right now. Now, when we get to more than a megabyte size blocks or larger blocks, then graphene starts having some serious performance advantages. And I'm a huge fan of graphene. There's also block torrent that's being worked on. There's X thinner. And then there's other mempool synchronization techniques that can be done, whether that's like pre-consensus systems in Avalanche or Storm, to make sure that mempools are more consistent, so that when these short versions of the blocks, these compact blocks or graphene-based blocks need to be built, that you're likely to have all the transactions that another node had. And that way you don't have to go out and make another round trip to go and fetch more data in order to recreate the blocks from these other technologies. So I look at it as there's quite a few different pieces. There's a lot of parallelization in code that needs to be added, mempool acceptance workloads. I'm a huge fan of removing child pays for parent, as I don't think it belongs in a big blockchain. And I think that for the most part, nobody uses it. And it's caused a lot of complexity for apps that need longer chained limits. So Satoshi Dice, I don't think they care about child pays for parent. They care that they can chain more than 50 transactions because that's what their users are demanding. And so I think that it's really important for us to look at what the use cases actually are and how much certain features are being used, and then be able to make intelligent choices about how to move forward. So I see, quite a few developers looking at different aspects of scaling. We're building testnet 4 and ScaleNet right now. The BCHN teams and Jonathan Tumin and a bunch of other people are building these additional scaling test networks so that we can really see where the different nodes kind of fall over. And what I've seen is a lot of collaboration between different node developers, not necessarily just in pull requests, but in ideas on how to make their nodes more performant, and great sounding boxes between developers to kind of fix some of these performance issues. So I'm really excited about ScaleNet. I think that it'd be really great to have a test network that we reset occasionally, that we can have really big blocks and see what doesn't work, and where these different nodes kind of fall over. I also think that, like I said before, I think a lot of big block people that don't like big blocks, right? Big blockers are not necessarily that everything has to be on chain. That's the big lie that small blockers like to tell all of the community. The truth is big blockers will do anything that is necessary to keep adoption and scaling progressing. Now, that could be on chain, that can be layer 2, that can be a bunch of different options. Big blockers just want to make sure that there's enough throughput for the number of users that need to use it without price consequences or cost consequences as high fees or high delays. So I don't know how big a block needs to get. So maybe when we get to, 256 meg blocks, there's a huge breakthrough in layer 2 that really does work, and we don't have to scale the blocks anymore. Great. At no time have I ever heard a big blocker say, we have to reach this size of block. That's just not the argument. The argument is the block size needs to be big enough to accommodate current demand and future demand with a good user experience. And so for me, that's the key, is user experience, making sure things work, and improving on-chain as much as we can. And I'm really excited about, new recursive proofs, and a lot of the Halo technology that was just released by the Zcash team. I think there's a lot of stuff that's going to go into play when it comes to scaling. And I think that the easiest argument for a small blocker is just to say, oh, all big blockers want is to scale on chain and just blow up the size of the blockchain, because they don't want to have an intelligent debate about usage and the rate of growth that is necessary to not slow down the demand and the growth of the currency. Like what happened in 2015 was so painful for me, not because Bitcoin was not able to scale. It's that was the critical time it needed to scale. And that was when it was most competitive and the most users wanted it to scale so that they could get it out there to more people. And by not scaling at that particular time, I think it put us about a decade behind on the curve. And that's the part that was really difficult. It's like, instead of scaling a 1 to like a 4 and just being like, yeah, we aren't sure if on-chain scaling is going to be great, let's at least get it so that it doesn't screw the whole network up. people were like, no, we want to screw the whole network up. And it's like, okay, I can't, that's just not something I thought was a good trade-off. You don't, cut off the demand curve with a giant knife and make it look like a plateau when you can actually onboard a bunch of users. And you can't afford to not onboard users if you're looking at the end goal of global money.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And he had another question. What is your opinion on why BTC doesn't make much of an effort for testnet, and most things being pushed to SimNet?
So, I mean, how people want to do their testing is up to them. There's reg test, there's SimNet, there's test, and honestly, the test nets, some of them take a long time to sync, and some of them have blocks that take ages to sync that aren't that great. I actually am glad we're creating some new test networks. I think that it'd be great for more command line options just to be able to spin up arbitrary test networks whenever you want. There is some seeding infrastructure that would need improvement to do that. And the DNS-based seeds, are set up pretty well for testnet and mainnet. But on the BTC side, I work on the BTC side less. I just do it at Coinbase for, UTXO managed coins. And I do a lot of, Nakamoto style assets at Coinbase just to make sure that we can service our customers. But on the personal side, I don't like to follow those it as much, as I just don't find it useful. The people that I interface with in Venezuela or South Sudan, in South Sudan, $5 fee is ridiculous. That's just a complete non-starter. Even a dollar fee is just a non-starter. And Lightning is not a non-starter because they don't have reliable networks. They just don't. They can't stay online. It's not safe for them to use Lightning and being going off and online constantly. So the entire model of Lightning is completely bankrupt to me when it comes to the third world. They don't have the infrastructure for it. They don't have the upfront costs to pay for it. They don't have a way to do most of the actions they would need to be safe on those networks. So I think that's why we're seeing them, using some of these other tools and other currencies trying to capitalize on that, whether that's Bitcoin Cash or Dash, or even Ripple and some of the stuff they're trying to do with remittances through Western Union. There's a reason they're tackling that angle, is because they know they can win on that angle against BTC or Ethereum with the current cost structures. And people are choosing even very centralized networks like Ripple, where they hold a huge number of Ripple themselves and profit off of it, just so that they can have low fees and fast transfers.
Yeah, I guess he's trying to clarify his point. Asking why he thinks BCH thinks testnets are important, but not for BTC.
Oh, they are. They're important for everybody. They're important for the BTC and BCH. But the difference is that the testnet's a little less interesting when it comes to BTC because you have a capped block size. So yeah, you need to test new opcodes maybe when there's new Schnorr support that's added. There's going to be a bunch of stuff activity on the testnet, but you don't need to test scaling. So you don't need to test big blocks. You don't need to test large scripts. You already have limits on a lot of these things that are not going to be increased because they're looked at as denial of service vectors. So just the utility of do I need to test a bunch of stuff? Well, if the currency's not doing a lot, well, you don't need to test a lot of stuff.
There you go. That's kind of what I was thinking too. Yeah, if you ain't changing much, well, you don't have to test it. So, what do you? I had a good idea. I was thinking that to fund BCHD, we just give you part of the Coinbase. What do you think?
I don't want your Coinbase. In fact, I think that it doesn't matter who you give the Coinbase to. It opens up a vector that I'm not happy with. Now, before we jump into that, I do want to mention one other thing about BCHD before we get into that. We actually have an implementation of double spend proofs that was started by Tom Zander. It looks like by the time November hits, it looks like BCHN, BU, and BCHD will be supporting double spend proofs, so that you can be notified of double spend transactions, at least for regular paid to public key hash, and which is a majority of transactions. And that would be, offering these types of tools to the BitPays of the world. And it's really, not a lot. It's not a consensus change. It's just a new env message. that nodes can respect.
Right.
And so I'm really excited that for the next release of BCHD, not only will we have SLP support, we're going to be implementing the Assert DAA, which we're in testing now. We actually have a PR up. We had other people in the community. Thanks, Poxed and a couple other developers for working with Chris on that implementation. And then we also have double spend proofs. And all of those should be in our next major release, which I'm just really excited about. It finally gets to the point where one node with a good API can really service most applications and be easy to maintain and support. So that's my last plug on the BCHD side.
Yeah, so I do have some questions about double spend proofs, actually, now that you bring it up. So double spending is possible the whole time in transactions in the mempool, right? So,
well, sort of.
But
so,
it's way harder after like a couple seconds, right? So
it is.
So is the double spending proof mainly for those like couple seconds?
That's exactly what it is. So basically, double spend proofs have their limitations. Let me start with the limitation it has. So a double spend proof can't stop a miner that has a hidden transaction from mining that transaction instead of the transaction that was seen on the network. Full stop. There's no way a double spend proof can catch that because they won't see the double spend until the block is mined.
Right.
And then at that point, you're fucked. You're done. It's too late. But what it does protect you against is double broadcast attacks, where someone sends a transaction to the merchant and a different transaction to other nodes on the network. Basically creates a race condition on the network. And if that race condition is happening, and then the first node that sees that race condition, both transactions, can generate the proof and get it out to the network. And all of that can happen within a period of like 2 seconds. And then you get an alert and it's like, hey, someone has tried to spend this UTXO twice.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen by accident, to be honest.
Right.
The wallets don't do that by accident. And so when you see that, it basically lets you know that there is some level of fraud happening. Now, that could be that, and because of the way UTXOs work, you can always chain a refund. So you can always say, oh, okay, I see that there was a double spend, and you sent me via this UTXO 0.02 Bitcoin Cash. Well, I'm going to chain on that exact UTXO. I'm going to send you back your 0.02 Bitcoin Cash.
And leave my store.
And leave my store. And so they get their money back if the transaction they tried to pay you with gets mined. And if it doesn't, well, then your UTXO, there's no refund that they get.
Okay, so the double spend proof actually sends it right back then too.
So it just gives you an opportunity for the merchant to include those types of tools.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's like really easy just to return the money via the same UTXO because of how UTXOs work.
Right.
And that works out very well. And it provides a lot of protections in those types of cases where it's like that within the first 5 seconds, you just want to know like, does this look okay?
Right.
And I think that is a very usable solution for a lot of businesses and payment processors. And I think it's just a useful addition. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Does it mean that we shouldn't invest more time in pre-consensus and better tools? Absolutely not. But what I think it is it's a great first step, and it provides more protections than exist today for zero conf transactions. And it's easy to implement. And that to me is just a win. There's no consensus change. It's easy to implement. It provides some level of benefit. And I don't see that many miner assisted double spends happening on the network where both transactions weren't seen. Yeah. Most, like 99.99% of the double spends we've seen on the network are race condition double spends that double spend proofs can protect against.
Yeah, it sounds like just a great way to bolster zero comp because I mean there's so many there's so many services that just like don't accept zero comp. So I'm just like, come on, please.
Now I don't think that it's a magic bullet. Like exchanges may not accept zero comp with double spend proofs. They might not. Or what they might say is, we'll accept a zero comp deposit with double spend proofs for less than $100, or something like that. But I'm a big fan of pre-consensus research. Now, I'm also a fan of like well-published researched specs that communities can discuss and cryptographers can discuss in a public, open setting about major changes to a peer-to-peer network. And I think that's the thing that I've seen missing most from BCH is that level of quality discussion about what should happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Yeah, Avalanche is interesting, just like the way its narrative has been kind of created, because like ABC's been obviously pushing hard for it, and other people are like, well, maybe we're not sure. And so yeah, it's just interesting how that's kind of coming to the forefront. Now there's, of course, there's an Avalanche coin, and so I
Yeah, I mean,
I guess my consensus, if there's pre-consensus, does real minor consensus actually matter? Or but if the because like if the minor consensus is the end all be all, then why use pre-consensus, right?
so there's a lot of reasons for that. And to me, pre-consensus, there's a lot of ways it can be done. And that's why I think that the devil is in the details. I could be pro or anti-avalanche depending on those details.
Right.
Now, truth is you can do an avalanche that doesn't touch consensus at all. All it does is sends avalanche messages to try to keep the mempool coordinated and make sure that double spends are not in the mempool. And it can be opt-in to miners that want to support it. And then things aren't in the blockchain until they're in the blockchain, meaning like they can mine whatever the fuck they want. They can listen to Avalanche or not, but that they can coordinate with Avalanche so that they can have better mempool syncing if they choose to. And then the source of truth is still Nakamoto consensus. And some miners can choose not to listen to the Avalanche messages and still mine whatever the fuck they want. Completely opt in, not a consensus change, not a big deal, doesn't change the primary consensus mechanism. Now, that is not what I've heard is actually worked on. Now, there's a lot of things that I've suggested on an Avalanche rollout. One is a log-only mode. So you roll out a node, and it does Avalanche consensus for the mempool, and it just logs everything and doesn't actually do anything. It just logs what it would have done. And then we let that sit on the network for 6 months. And we have literally gigabytes of logs of what the Avalanche different permutations would have done in different situations. But we haven't actually acted on any of that yet. It's basically a way to turn on research mode and see what could have happened and make more intelligent decisions. And then at that point, we see what would have happened on the logs. And then there's a little bit more consensus or more people discussing that, hey, this is actually looking really good, and coming to some level of agreement before anything is actually turned on that changes behavior other than just logging what it would have done. And I think there's ways that we can do this. And I think long-running test nets for these types of big changes are really important. I also think that other people are coming up with innovative ideas. I liked reading the Storm paper. I think there are some things in Storm that are not necessarily perfect, but these are the discussions that are needed between the community and the developers to really come to a place where like we know that these solutions are the right ones to be actually activating on the network. And I think that if someone has a really good solution that makes economic sense and is a doable solution, that people eventually will gravitate to saying, yeah, that looks like it's a good way forward on the network. And it scares me when people think, oh, well, no, if I put out a spec, all they're going to do is say how bad it is and are afraid of actually getting community feedback. And then they think that their ideas are better than everybody else's. I think this is kind of the most dangerous form of development possible. It leads to, potential for developer capture. It allows for developers to really not vet their ideas by a large enough target audience. And as the third biggest proof of work currency in the world, I think Bitcoin Cash can do better than that.
Nice. Well said. Well said. Well said. So, do we have any questions in chat? I think there's an elephant around here somewhere. So
what questions do you have for me, Collin?
What question do I have for you? So, will you be, if ABC is the majority chain in November, will you be sticking with ABC?
I don't believe any coin that does has a centrally managed developer fund is one that I'm interested in. There's a reason I stuck with Bitcoin. There's a reason that I didn't go the ICO route with like a managed company that wanted to release a current cryptocurrency. I believe that even if the people that are getting those funds have the best of interests in the network, even if they completely love the network and promise to do the best things, even if they believe they're going to do all the best things, that it's still a bad idea, because it opens up a centralized place for people to try to capture the coin and or threaten the participants of the network to do what they need to do. And I see no way to do it safely. And therefore, I think it's a bad idea. And so I think that ABC thinks they're doing the right thing. I think they think they're going to benefit the network. I think they are above anyone that could try to circumvent their process or this new global network council that they're trying to create. I don't think that's true. I think that for the best of their intentions, that those types of systems inevitably fail. And so that's just not something I will develop for. Now, being a free market, I think everybody should be able to do whatever they want. ABC can put whatever the fuck they want in their client. They want to put Tetris in command line mode and Bitcoin B, go fucking have fun, right? But that doesn't mean I need to actually continue to develop for it. And I think that the economics of the system really, really do matter. And there's a reason that I stuck with Bitcoin and then Bitcoin Cash is I wanted a true decentralized currency, bringing a entity that is a governing entity into a distributed, decentralized currency, I think is a mistake that you can't undo. So I'd love to say, yeah, I'd stick around and watch what happens. But I think that once that happens, that the precedent's been set, and that the coin effectively has been ruined for future development. Even if they decide it's a bad idea and remove it, well, then I think that just drops you into irrelevance, and then some other coin takes your place. So it's a hard decision for me. I've spent 3 years building a lot of tools for Bitcoin Cash, and I want it to succeed. And I just don't see it aligning with my principles of what I need from censorship resistant money. And the analogy I like to state is what happens if, every single communication on the internet had to pay a fee to Juniper and Cisco? What would happen? Is that a open protocol? Is it fair to all participants? Well, the internet wouldn't work without Cisco. They spent all this money on routing gear that runs all of the major backbones. So surely they should get a cut of any internet money that gets sent or any internet traffic that is moved around. Well, I think that's a bad idea. I think that what is really important is that these networks are not tied to a particular dev team and not tied to any, entity that represents the network. The network is what it is, and it's a decentralized hodgepodge of a bunch of people putting in things. And I think free markets work in weird ways. Right now, the free market is kind of saying that we need better wallets, we need better DeFi tools, and it's saying, yeah, we don't need that much work on the node right now. That's kind of what I see the market saying. And I think that when people say, oh, the market's wrong, my value is X, and now I'm going to try to extract that value through what I consider a subsidy. I think that that's when economics have gone awry. So it's just not something I will continue on. And I wish, everybody the best of luck, and who knows what I'll end up doing. As I really think that BCH in its current form is the decentralized network structure that I was looking for. And this kind of takes it away from one of my key things that I care about.
Yeah, well put. So we had some questions from Reddit. You kind of summarized BCHD's main difference between the current state and from plans of BU, BCHN, and Verde and Flowy. But the other question was, how have collaborations with BCHN and with ABC look like from a developer's perspective since BCHN has started?
So, I'll start with before BCHN was started. So before BCHN, the interface was always amicable with ABC, mainly because we never stir the pot, right? We're just implementing the changes that the hard fork needs. A lot of it was testnet coordination, making sure that we could test our node with other nodes in the ecosystem. And Manjarian and some other devs from ABC would usually spearhead those efforts. So that was always really great. They were always really there for us. Then BCHN came about, and honestly, their Slack, there's a lot of really great activity happening there. I see a lot of discussions, a lot of meaningful discussions, a lot of transparency about how they're looking at development and how they're funding their development that I wish ABC had provided previously. And I'm really impressed by what BCHN's been able to put together in such a small time frame. And a lot of the developers there I have a lot of respect for. I have a lot of respect for Jonathan Tumim. I have a lot of respect for Mark Lundeberg. I have a lot of respect for Jonald, a lot of respect for Collin, even though sometimes he says things that are a little rude. But he works his ass off, and everybody's entitled to have a personality, and he's done great work with Electron Cash. He knows the protocol well. And I think I've had a great time interfacing with the BCHN guys. I also have found that the collaboration there's been great. Like the double spend proof implementation with Tom Zander was just kind of collecting dust. And then the BCHN Slack happened and he brought it back up. And now we have 3 nodes that are implementing it.
That was awesome.
ABC decided not to. They don't see the value in it. And that's fine. That's their prerogative. And so I'm really excited. And then we also had some contributions. Like Poxt came in and saw some that the assert changes to the spec were done, but we hadn't implemented them in BCHD yet. He actually put forth a bunch of commits to help Chris get the assert stuff done. So I've seen a lot of great collaboration with BCHN. I've been really impressed with the way they look at development. And overall, I think they have a solid team to be able to move forward. And I think a lot of this animosity is kind of crazy. In an ideal world, we'd have 2 really great teams working together. But that's just not what we've gotten. And I think that there's been a lot of paranoia that, people are trying to usurp power or do this or that and not looking at the things that the teams are actively doing as the reason why these disputes are happening. And this is a big change. Paying a council to send funds to different people. This is a huge change. And people just want to make it sound like, oh, BCHN's trying to be difficult. It's like, no, this is a huge change.
Yeah, it's
a lot of people are not.
It's like the biggest change in Bitcoin like ever. Like it's bigger than the block size change. Like it's so drastic.
I think that it's definitely on the same caliber of that. And so the BCHN devs I've been really happy with. I like the back and forth that's happening there. And I think that the ideal situation should have been ABC does assert with everybody else. We have a great upgrade. Everyone's in agreement that we had a good solution presented and we could figure out a way to get past some of these differences. And I think that, the same thing that was great about ABC being willing to fork Bitcoin is now not so great because now they're willing to fork the Bitcoin Cash community because of some other change that they want. But that's actually, that's what they've done in the past. ABC's track record is extremely consistent. I don't like what you're doing, I'm splitting. That's how it came to exist. That's what happened with BSV. It was like, yep, oh, BSV, they're terrible. We're going to split. We're going to fight them. And then that was the second split. And now we're looking at it again and ABC's like, oh, okay, well, we're going to split again because we think this is what we need to do. And I think that's extremely destructive to the community. I think it's extremely destructive during a global pandemic when people need global peer-to-peer cash more than ever before. So I think that they're literally they're not able to take a big picture view of what the world's state is right now. And they care too much about the microcosm of control they're trying to, maintain for their client implementation. And I just don't understand it. This could have been such a smooth upgrade. We could have focused on adoption and focused on an alternative global currency during a time where there is economic turmoil. And instead, we're talking about this stupid IFP shit.
So what do you have to say in response to that? Well, they are critical infrastructure and they haven't gotten the funding in the past. And so this is the way to get that funding. And it aligns the incentives because otherwise you'll have a corporate takeover a la Blockstream. And this is kind of
it's already a corporate takeover. ABC owns bitcoincash.org and ABC wants to literally get rid of every full node implementation out there other than themselves. That sounds like a corporate takeover to me.
Yeah. Well, you say it like that.
I mean, they think they own the network. They think, and that's fine. They can think whatever they want and they can put whatever they want in the node. And I can choose not to run it. That's great. I agree with all of that. I don't think that they morally are obligated to do anything with their node. It's their software, their shit. You can modify it. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. So I don't And I think that they are trying to do something they think is correct. That's
Yeah. I'd say well put. So, November 15th comes. What is your prediction? What is going to happen?
honestly, I'm hoping that a majority of businesses and miners show that the economic activity is going to be on the non-IFP chain. That's what I hope happens. I think most exchanges are going to take it really carefully, and they're going to probably halt trading to see what happens because it's a contentious split again. And I think that depending on the outcome of that, we could either see two very low market cap coins, one survive, really not 100% sure. And I think that the only way that Bitcoin Cash stays relevant, like a top 5 currency, is if the IFP doesn't go through. I think if the IFP ends up going through, that a lot of the businesses that were built on Bitcoin Cash are going to like not really be supported that well. And they're going to need to use those funds to find new developers because they're going to lose a huge number of developers that have poured years of effort into Bitcoin Cash. And those people are not easy to replace. And money doesn't bring them up to speed within, a week. That's going to take, 6+ months of training if they're just hiring developers. So I think that that's going to be very difficult. I also think that most developers care about the environment they're developing in, and that it's not just about a paycheck. And I think that teams that are hard to work with, developers have a hard time working with. And so I'm not sure that just giving ABC money is going to magically fix their dev issues.
Yeah.
I just don't see that. I've never seen throwing money at a problem as a solution at all. And I've seen a lot of bad misused resources, in my opinion, over the last 3 years that have caused a lot of this pain for ABC. And I think it's really kind of goes back to decisions they made. So I see it as just the free market at work. Now the free market's saying that the other nodes are a little bit more valuable now. And there's a question about whether or not ABC has the best interests of the network in mind.
Mike, IFP stands for Infrastructure Funding Plan. Lack of a better term, the miner tax.
Yeah, I don't like to call it a tax, but
Yeah,
whatever people want to call it,
Yeah, it's just so easy to say.
Yeah.
It's the subsidy, the fee, tax just flows.
I mean, to be honest, I really liked the way Vitalik put it when he was talking about like the protocol itself not playing favorites in any way. Like you shouldn't be giving money via the protocol to somebody else, and that is very important to a lot of members of the community. And I think it's kind of ridiculous if another node mined a block, why are they paying ABC?
Right.
And that seems really backwards to me. Like, I don't think anybody would think it'd be okay if I went and bought a car, and I bought a car from Mazda. And then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, 8% needs to go to Ford.
Because they
be like, what? But I just bought this Mazda. Why am I giving money to this other company when I'm not using their product? But, and so I think that that's a little weird, but people can do what they want to do. And if I think that ABC really wants to go this IFP route, even if they're a low market cap coin, and I think Amari will be really happy no matter what, because he's going to be siphoning off enough money that he thinks he can do stable development. And he doesn't really care about the current user base.
I'd say that's fair. I think, honestly, I think the two sides will be satisfied after November comes. And
yeah, I hope so. And I hope that people don't attack each other, their personal reputations and stuff. Like I see far too many personal attacks in the space. And I think that, people can try whatever experiment they want. Now, do I think the split is a bad idea, that it's bad timing, that it hurts the people we're trying to help? Absolutely. I wish that it just wasn't happening. I wish that everybody could figure out a way to work better together, especially when the main technical changes were agreed on. Like it'd be different if ABC wanted other technical features, not the funding thing, but they don't. And I feel like Grassberg was just a way to be different rather than I don't think they actually believed that was the correct path forward, which I thought was very odd as well.
Mm-hmm. Mike says, how many more splits in the future?
Honestly, at this rate, quite a few.
One every 2 years.
Yeah, who knows? At this rate, people don't seem to be able to understand the value of a stable network. And I think that the big block split was something that needed to happen. And every split since then has reduced the benefit of people looking at Bitcoin. And if this keeps happening, then effectively the Bitcoin part of the Bitcoin crypto experiment will have failed. And that maybe hopefully another currency will be able to pick up the slack. But you can't just split every 2 years. And especially with SLP tokens, which chain is the token going to be good on? Which businesses are going to be on which chain? The lack of replay protection. All of that is just a complete disaster for anyone that's actually trying to adopt the currency. So really problematic on that front.
So we did have a question earlier. What do you think about Ethereum going proof of stake?
I'm not personally a huge proof of stake fan, but we'll see. The devil's in the details, but yeah, I'm not a huge proof of stake fan. I think that people need to re-up their investments just because they have a bunch of money. I don't think that they should have permanent say in everything that happens on the network, especially when there are entities in this world that literally print money that is worth more than these crypto networks. So like, okay, the Federal Reserve goes and prints itself $1 trillion and empties out every exchange. Who runs Ethereum now?
The CIA. Spooks.
Fed? So like, I just don't see a world where proof of stake can't be gamed by the major financial organizations that exist in the world today. I think proof of work is better. And I also think that certain bugs around proof of stake are really dangerous. Like what happens when your node misbehaves and your funds get slashed, but it wasn't you that committed the problem. It was a bug and you lost $1.2 million. You can feel good about that. Like the node itself just slashed all your money. I just don't think slashing and some of those penalty systems work unless software is perfect. And software is not perfect. Big thing. There's bugs all over the place. And so I see penalty-based systems as being problematic when bugs exist in software. And so I like positive incentives. You find the right hash, I pay you money. That's it. There's no, if you give me the wrong hash, I do something bad to you. Maybe I'll ban your node for 10 minutes because you're obviously giving me bad data or whatever, but you're rewarded for the correct behavior, and then the incorrect behavior just kind of is like other behavior.
Yeah. I don't know too much about proof of stake, so that's an interesting way to put it, the punishment thing versus
yeah. Well, proof of stake, I think that there are a lot of people trying to do staking systems. I'm actually interested in a lot of newer consensus systems.
Because they own most of the stake, so they want to have it be proof of stake.
Yeah, especially for pre-mined tokens. Yeah, proof of stake on a pre-mine, it's like, okay, they have a bunch of the tokens that they got for pennies on the dollar, which means that it's cost prohibitive for any new entrant to ever participate in governance, unless and that's really not the best situation to be in. Sometimes you need to allow new participants to come in and prove that they want to secure the network. And that's exactly what proof of work allows them to do. But proof of stake doesn't really allow that. For instance, like masternodes in Dash, right? They provided some features on the Dash network. That's great. You used to be able to buy a masternode for less than $1,000 because Dash was cheap. Now it's like way more to have any say in the governance. And a lot of people think that that has been gamed. And I think that makes sense, you know? So, yeah, I think it's a very complicated world that we're in. And I'm all for seeing how the free market shakes all this stuff out. Because I think given enough time, we will come up with solutions that work better. And Avalanche is a new, type of the snow protocols are a new way of looking at consensus that are not stake based and not proof of work based. And I think that there's a lot of cool experimentation that's going to happen there. And can't wait to see what people do.
Cool. Any last questions? Do you have any questions for me, Josh?
Yeah. So what's your take on, how everything's going? Are you going to be as bullish about Bitcoin Cash if, there's an IFP, or what's your thoughts on all of this craziness?
Well, if ABC gets the majority hash, there's no other chain, right? Because that's just how.
Yep.
And so I would basically call, like you said, the Bitcoin experiment over. Maybe not the crypto experiment over, but definitely the Bitcoin decentralized experiment over. And that'd be sad, because then my documentary that I'll be filming someday, cross my fingers, will be about how Bitcoin is dead.
I really hope that's not what happens.
Yes, I know, me neither. But I really don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I see all the support for Bitcoin Cash, non-IFP, non-ABC, for lack of a better word, grassroots, right? It seems like, I mean, I know it's people always get kind of irritated when you like reference Reddit and stuff, but like a lot of the Bitcoin Cash people are on Reddit, like that's where they are, and they're on Twitter, and I mean, it's proof of social media, whatever. But that you do see a lot of support from there. And for example, a lot of Reddit supported big blocks in like 2013 to 2015. The majority of Reddit supported big blocks, right? And then the whole censorship and thought and CIA, whatever you want to call it, thing happened. And then Reddit shifted a little bit, right? And so I do think that's grassroots. I do think it's a representative of what is going on right now. So I do have hope for non-FP going on. And
well, I guess it's not just proof of social media, though, right?
Yeah, it's proof of people, though, right?
I went to Bitcoin Cash City Conference, and that was like some of the most serious Bitcoin Cash people, holders, developers, everything.
Right.
And most of the people I know that went to that event are against the IFP.
Right.
Those are real humans that I've seen spend 3 years building out tools for this network.
Right.
So that's not proof of social media or proof of troll or anything. It's actual humans I know that don't like this shit.
I mean, it's funny because you can complain about proof of social media, but it's like nobody can go in real life anyways right now. So what else do you have?
Exactly. You have videos like this one. You have, people doing all of these talks, and they're really valuable. And I think a lot of people are not seeing the forest for the trees. I really loved Jeffrey Tucker's talk about being able to have a global currency that is decentralized for the world and the separation of money and state. I think that that's amazing. That should be our goal, not infighting and splits and trying to pay dev teams and like all this other stuff. It's like, wait a minute. Our eye is just not on the prize right now, and it's problematic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I have high hopes for November. It should be an exciting day, to say the least. But hopefully, it's not exciting. Is a better way to say it. Hopefully, it's just kind of over like that. That's be healthy for everybody. And I should have a new video about it coming out soon. So we're recording it tomorrow.
So when's your documentary coming out?
So I'm probably gonna run a flip start in the next couple weeks. Probably within the month. I'm putting together a proposal right now. I've been putting it off just because international travel is like just so messed up right now that I don't want to like raise all this money and sit on it for too long. But I think it's slowly starting to open up, so I'm going to start raising the money and start pushing money where it needs to go to get the thing rolling again. And so hopefully...
You've been collecting footage for how long now? Like
too fucking
years.
long, man. So I originally went to Tokyo in like 2017. I think it was 2018 March. That was like it was the one BU put on. It was before SV split because Craig was there. But it was in Tokyo. It was a Bitcoin Cash conference. So I interviewed people there for that. And I got a couple of interviews there. And then I went to Australia, obviously, for the Bitcoin Cash City conference. And I interviewed a bunch of people there. And those are really great interviews. And with that, I kind of put myself more in front of the camera. So like I figured at this point, like I should probably like kind of be the subject, right? I mean, I'm in the space and all that. So... and it'll help bring everything together. And so I have a bunch of interviews from there. So really at this point I have like the whole like story of it. And now I just need like the real people and not just like the nerds talking to cameras. So hopefully making it to Venezuela and South Sudan actually to hang out.
No, that'd be amazing. Like I'm sure Emmanuel and Garang and some of the South Sudanese guys on the ground would love to have you come out there.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
We've recorded some footage that we have, and it's a lot of work to get good quality videos out there. It's a lot of work. The editing work and just the time commitment to get it done at high quality is very high.
Yeah, I mean that's my real job, so I understand what it takes. So, but yeah, hopefully Venezuela is for the EBCH guys, and Oscar's doing a bunch of stuff over there too. That's separate from EBCH, so should get at least.
The Venezuela worker stuff looks great.
Yeah,
I love those solutions because It makes them look pro. It gives them some good revenue opportunities. And we are in a global market, and we can help these people.
Yeah.
And I was really happy with the work Oscar's been doing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting him to do my animations for the documentary too. He's awesome at that stuff. He's referred to me like graphic designer as well. It's like, yeah, it's a global economy. I got hiring people in all these different countries and pay them in Bitcoin Cash. So it's freaking sweet. So yeah, hopefully if I get that funded, say within 2 months, hopefully I'll be out shooting in 2 months after that. And then it'll be at least 6 months of post. So maybe end of 2021, we'll call it. And it will be a full feature, a full beautiful documentaries. Hopefully we can get it on somewhere like Netflix so it can reach a wide audience. And because it's not directed towards the crypto people, it's directed towards everybody that maybe has heard of Bitcoin. Maybe they kind of know what it is, but they don't know what happened. So, and it will be called Breaking Bitcoin because they broke Bitcoin.
I mean, there's no doubt that Bitcoin broke.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. Anyone that used Bitcoin before 2015 watched it break.
Yeah, for sure.
And there are some people that wanted to use it a little differently and they didn't consider it broken. But for us that were using Steam or trying to do peer-to-peer payments, we watched as the congestion and fees skyrocketed to the point where it wasn't a good choice to use as day-to-day currency, which is the exact opposite of what a lot of us were striving for.
Mike says, "I didn't see it break. I'm in denial." You're working on the it's not. You're working on the broken half. It's all right. Just it's a coin, right? You're working on the circle part, not the broken part. So you're fine. Don't worry about it. Just keep working. All right. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Any more questions for anybody? I think we covered just about all the topics I wanted to cover with you. And so, thank you so much
thanks for letting me come on.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for your time. It was an awesome interview. I appreciate all your thoughts on everything. It's great to talk to you. Finally get you on the show. I've been trying to get you on for a long time. So,
I don't come on to these shows that often, but you're a special, character. It's good to come on and chat for a bit.
Yeah.
So, hopefully people find this valuable, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yes. Awesome. All right. Thank you again, Josh.